nuke threats are real. Nuke threats against the United States are not very realistic.
Yeah.
Right? It's a good chance that in our lifetime, we're going to see another nuke go off. It's not going to fucking happen in the United States because every country in the world knows nobody outperforms our nuclear capability. So to launch against us guarantees that we will launch back and you're going to be decimated, right? Yeah. Whereas we are also a reactive, and everybody knows this, we have a reactive nuclear policy, which means we're not going to launch a nuclear missile unless somebody else executes first strike, and we believe with high confidence that that first strike is destined for the United States. So consider what Iran did to Israel after Israel killed some leader, actually after Israel bombed the Iranian outpost in Syria. They sent 300 drones to Israel, right? Well, in the weeks before those drones, Iran told everybody. They told the United States, they told Iraq, they told Jordan, they told Syria, they told the UK, they told the UN, we're going to send a lot of drones at Israel in retaliation for them killing our folks, right? So they announced it to the whole world because the one thing they did not want was for anybody to misunderstand that those drones were headed to Israel. If they would have thought those drones were headed to an American aircraft carrier, or if those drones were headed to an air base in Jordan or Iraq, they knew shit was going to go nasty. So they announced it to everybody. So what I would anticipate is if China or Russia, who have the most advanced nuclear capabilities in the world outside of us, if they choose to use a nuke, either they will announce it to us in back channels so that we know it's not coming for us, and then they'll use it, or it's going to get smuggled through some proxy group, and it's going to be a fucking briefcase nuke that goes off. Yeah. And that's, for me, that has been the highest likelihood of a nuke conflict, has been Ukraine, Kiev, for a long time for me.
Either a tactical or a briefcase.
Yeah. Yep, smuggled through Belarus, because you know what happens when a briefcase nuke goes off in Kiev and your due diligence shows that it came from Belarus, but Belarus isn't nuclear capable, but Belarus is a proxy for Russia, but Russia denies it coming from Russia and Belarus denies it coming from Belarus, then the only thing left is for us to say that it's some fringe, uncontrolled group. Either way, nobody pays a price except Kiev.
Yeah. For our capability, once it's launched, is there a way there's no way to cancel it?
If that is an upgrade to the system, it's a new upgrade. But the last I heard, which was still when I was with CIA, they're fire and forget, man. Once they're up, they're up. Yeah. I would be surprised if there was no cancel button somewhere by now. But when I was there, man, that was how it worked. Once you launched them, you are 100% dedicated, which is why we are not a first strike nation.
Yeah. Man, it's some fascinating stuff for sure. As you closed that chapter of your life, what was the spark that initiated the CIA path?
It was an accident, actually. So, I was...
like all great CIA and nuke careers. Fuck, it was an accident.
It's one of those things, man. When you're just trying to escape discomfort, you end up doing some cool shit sometimes. But I'm sitting under the ground. I'm sitting underground, not with a cutie, not, getting a blowjob to pass the time.
So did you have... It's a bunker 10. It's a topside 5, but a bunker 10. Did you have a rating system like that?
We called them Falcon goggles.
That's fucking great. God, I love it. Fucking military. Nothing changes.
But yeah. So I'm underground, watching and waiting for the end of the world to come. So when the time came to leave, Air Force asked for volunteers. My hand was the first one up. Malmstrom Air Force Base. First hand up, first person in line to leave, or second person in line to leave early out of Malmstrom, because they were force shaping for Iraq and Afghanistan. And I signed my paperwork. I'm free in 90 days. And I remember the staff sergeant or whatever was like, "What are you going to do? Like, you're going to go work in corporate America? You're going to go get a job?" I was like, "I don't know what I'm going to do." I hadn't thought that far. I just knew I wanted the fuck out of here. I didn't really know what I wanted to do next. So I start looking, like most military people do, for other government jobs. Because one thing I know is the government, and I have zero idea how any of my skills are applicable to 7-Eleven or CVS Health or, whatever company was out there at the time. So I come across the Peace Corps. I come across AmeriCorps and the Peace Corps. AmeriCorps sounds cool. Travel around America, go to inner city schools, rural schools, teach kids. That sounds cool. Like, that's way better than destroying the planet. Peace Corps, you go around the world and like you live in tents with hippie chicks from the United States and all other countries of the world. Like, now that sounds like we're a place where you can chase tail and like change the world. So I'm all in on Peace Corps. Sign up for, go make my applicant online platform or whatever the hell it's called, portal. Get on the early days of a computer, back when you had computer labs before everybody had their own personal computer. So I'm no shit putting in my application for the Peace Corps, and a red screen pops up that says, hey, you may be qualified for other national security jobs, or you may qualify for other jobs based on your answers. Are you willing to put your application on hold for 72 hours while a recruiter reaches out to you? I'm 27 years old. It's not the Air Force. So I'm like, shit, yeah, like I'll put myself on hold. So I put my little hold button. 24 hours later, I get a phone call, 703 area code, which I didn't realize at the time was important, but that's the Langley, Virginia area code. And on the other end of the line, some lady is like, hey, are you Andrew Bustamante, or are you Andrew Gregg, my name before CIA? Are you Andrew Gregg? We saw your application for the Peace Corps. We think that you're qualified for other jobs in national security. Would you be interested in an interview? So sure. And that's how it started. And then from there, I got a FedEx overnight ticket, FedEx overnight hotel reservation, FedEx overnight car rental, went up to Langley, Virginia, Washington, D.C., and found out that the national security element that was interested in me was actually CIA.
So it was quick. Like, it wasn't, I mean, I've had a few agency guys on here, and it was a long, drawn-out process for all of them. It sounds like yours was pretty fast-tracked.
The first interview, once you're in the application process, that shit takes forever.
Okay.
Right? So I would say from the time that I applied to the time that I got the phone call was less than 72 hours, less than 30 days before I got all of the FedEx stuff for my appointment, and then actually took off and had my first interview. And yeah, from that point, I was still lightning fast compared to most CIA officers. Yeah. From first interview to actual orientation, I was about 9 months.
Oh, wow.
Where most people are 18 to 24.
Yeah.
But it was because I didn't have any of that clearance time. My clearance was already locked in place. Yeah. And I was, a brown kid from the Air Force Academy. I'd only ever had one job, and that's the Air Force, outside of being a busboy in a fucking, golf shack. But
not a lot of background check to do. Yeah.
And everything was already on Air Force records. So finding out about me was quick.
Yeah, that's cool. You said your name used to be Greg. Like, right. They changed it?
So when I married at the Air Force Academy, when I married at the CIA, I took my wife's family name.
Oh, really?
And I took my wife's family name for two reasons. One, I wanted to honor her dad. My wife comes from a Latino family, and her family name was going to die with her father because he had two daughters, and he was the last of his family name. So the name was going to disappear. So when I met my wife, she made it very clear, like, hey, I've got to protect my father's name, so I'm going to carry my father's name, and I'll hyphenate or whatever else. Well, I carried the last name of a guy I never met. My stepdad didn't give me his name. My mom didn't give me my stepdad's name. So I grew up Andrew Gregg in a family full of people named something else. I had no connection to my names at all. So when I decided to get married, I actually called my father-in-law, my future father-in-law, to ask permission to marry his daughter, and then to also ask permission to change my name to take his family name so that we could try to perpetuate the family name Bustamante.
I would hope that he was he responded well to that. Like,
he was touched.
Man, that's really cool.
Yeah, and then the same thing happened. So then I told my wife when I proposed to her, and she said yes. Thankfully, I was like, I'm going to take your last name, and she went.
Ballistic.
She loved it.
Yeah.
And then we went to the agency and told the agency we were getting married, and they were bummed out because they hate it when you get married because you put something else ahead of the agency. But then when they heard I was a field operator, when they heard I wanted to change my name and go through the legal process of changing my name, then they got excited. Because that further buried my record.
Yeah, wow, that's really cool, man. And it's good for the kids because it's all.
And now we have a son.
Yeah.
So now what would have been the end of the Bustamante family line, literally plays with his grandson, and my son, who's only 11 years old, is already adamant that he wants kids. He's already like,
that's awesome.
I love being a kid. I can't wait to have my own kids, and
super cool. The CIA path, expectation versus reality.
So, great question. I didn't know what to expect because it all came from media. But I did have certain expectations. I expected high-speed tech. I expected organization. I expected lack of politics, a focus on the mission. I expected kind of like elite
Jason
stuff. Yeah, right? It was not that.
Yeah.
It was people packing their lunch in Target and Walmart lunch bags. It was people in white Velcro tennis shoes. It was 50 to 75% private contractors. It was a bunch of politics. It was a bunch of like manipulation. It was broken processes and government inefficiency and bureaucracy and fucking fiefdom building, right? Between people who were trying to compete up the ladder. It was discouraging to say the least, but there were pockets of amazing people doing amazing things, bullshit free. And I really, really appreciated that. And I was fortunate enough that by the time that I had to make my choice between engaging in the politics and engaging in all the fucking ridiculousness, my wife and I had already decided we were going to leave.
Yeah. What is the CIA good at?
That has become a very good and relevant question.
Tough question, maybe.
It's a tough question right now. So without a doubt, CIA is good at creating a finished analytical product from all source intelligence. That is what the Central Intelligence Agency does.
On anything.
Yeah, they're supposed to be the repository for all source intelligence, which means Navy intelligence, Air Force intelligence, National Security Agency, geospatial, DNI, FBI, all these groups collect intelligence all the time. And they're supposed to send their raw intelligence to the Central Intelligence Agency, where our Directorate of Analytics or a Directorate of Analysis takes all that all source intelligence and vets it, prioritizes it, ranks it, and narrates it into the president's daily brief, which is the daily intelligence briefing for the president. That's what CIA is supposed to do. That's their primary mission. They do that very well. The problem is garbage in, garbage out. Bad intelligence comes in, bad intelligence goes out. So we always have to struggle with getting better intelligence. In addition to that, CIA also has the mission to collect human intelligence, which is also known as HUMINT. So that's the intelligence of last resort. When you can't hack a computer system, when you can't fly a drone, when you can't listen to signals intelligence, you have to do something. So you go and try and get a human source. CIA used to be very good at human sources, but between policy, bureaucracy, and funding, especially since the first Trump presidency, when they spent all their time and effort accusing Trump of being a Russian collaborator, he pulled funding. He stopped using CIA. And then for 4 years, they basically got, washed to the wayside. People left en masse. The Biden administration took over. People kind of tried to stick around, but then they made CIA more of like a hiring clearinghouse for DEI and whatever else. So who knows what that place looks like now. But from what I understand from the scuttlebutt from my peers is that we're a shell of what we used to be in terms of capability and dedication to the mission. There's still pockets of people doing really good work, but our human operational capability is hurting.
Is it fixable, do you think?
I think everything's fixable.
Yeah.
Right? I think everything's fixable. I think what CIA does well and has always done well is they recruit very, very well.
Yeah.
The people who come in the door there should fucking be there.
Yeah.
They're smart, they're dedicated, they break the rules, they have zero problem lying to get what they want, and what they want is national security. So they do hire very, very well. It's just a matter of letting the people they hire do their job.
Yeah.
And that's a political game. When you've got a group chief or a senior group chief or a division chief that just cuts off the ability for a low-level operator to do what they need to do, of course you're not going to get the intel, right? And ultimately that low-level operator is only going to hit their head against the wall for so long before they say, fuck it, punch out and go join Google.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what CIA has to deal with now.
Did you find a slant politically in any of your superiors?
Yes, but what I will say is this, the slant changes. The slant changes according to whoever's in the office. So the chief executive, the CIA falls under the executive branch. So the head of the CIA is a political appointee directed by the president, who is the chief executive. So when you have a liberal president, everybody who has a liberal political base ends up promoting up the chain. And then when you have a conservative president, the opposite happens. So you see this constant back and forth, or at least I did back in 2007 to 2010. But it started to change and become more volatile with the Obama years.
Yeah.
Because when Obama was president, he executed more covert action than any previous president, more executive orders than any previous president. Like, he really used the office of the executive in a way that people hadn't seen before. He was also the first one to really ramrod unpopular policy through when the Democratic Party had control of the House and the Senate. And that's how we got Obamacare, right? And it's set a precedent for every president since then. That was exactly what was happening at CIA too. So what we saw was not just a back and forth switch between, some conservative leaders and some liberal leaders. Instead, we saw like a big blue wave come through CIA. And what that meant was that everybody who was politically blue kind of went up the food chain, and everybody who was politically red had to sit there and wonder, when is it going to be our chance, or do we just leave now?